Neuromarketing is an exciting new field of market research that offers a fresh perspective for understanding consumer decision-making and behavior. As consumers are unable to self-assess, in that people find it very difficult to understand what emotions are being felt and why, and they find it very difficult to express their feelings and other subjective factors when explaining their own experience to others, especially under survey conditions. There are also a number of self-reporting biases that come into play, given the situations under which the survey is conducted. Consumers may be influenced by external factors like the researcher, the interviewer, or the moderator themselves, or internal factors like their own personal interests, needs, and desires. David Ogilvy eloquently summed this up when he said, "Consumers don't think how they feel, they don't say what they think, and they don't do what they say." Fortunately, over the past decade, there have been major advances made in the interdisciplinary field of neuroscience. These advances have uncovered fundamental truths about how consumers make decisions, the irrationality of those decisions, and the importance of emotions in the decision-making process. Advancements in technology have also enabled us to measure people's psychophysiological, cognitive, emotional, behavioral, and neurophysiological responses to the overall consumer experience. This provides insight into exactly what is going on, both in their hearts and their minds. Neuromarketing is a relatively new field of market research that studies consumers' emotional, cognitive, and sensory motor response to the consumer experience. This could be their first-hand experience of different products and services, as well as their experience of the marketing and advertising activities of the brands themselves. Neuromarketing scientifically assesses emotional and cognitive processes beyond the level of human consciousness, providing access to richer and less biased market research insights compared with more traditional marketing research techniques. With over 95% of our decisions being driven by our subconscious, it's vital for marketers to understand these subconscious processes that may predict buying behaviors of their consumers and their customers. It also offers faster turnaround times and often lower overall costs in comparison to traditional research methodologies. With the use of neuroscience techniques and technologies, we can identify how the marketing mix can be optimized to evoke the best possible emotional response and attain the best possible cognitive and emotional impact, ultimately driving higher ROIs for our clients. At Neural Sense, our methodologies explore emotion, memory, arousal, approach, and decision-making in response to the consumer experience, all of which play a vital role in influencing the resulting consumer behavior. With expertise in the fields of marketing, neuroscience, both neurophysiology and neuropsychology, behavioral science, and biomedical engineering, Neural Sense provides a holistic neuromarketing research and consulting offering for its clients, which include marketing managers, advertising agencies, and market research firms alike. We pride ourselves on developing neuromarketing research methodologies that are both scientifically and ethically sound, resulting in invaluable consumer insights that are backed by scientific evidence. So how do we do it? We use neuromarketing techniques, technologies, and other really cool neuroscience-y stuff to read people's minds, as well as their emotions. Our researchers use neuroscience technologies such as electroencephalography, or EEG, to measure brain response, and galvanic skin response biometric sensors to measure changes in one's physiological state to learn why consumers make the decisions they do and how we can optimize the emotional drivers behind those decisions. We also investigate the specific emotions experienced at particular moments in time through facial coding, and identify specific visual influences with eye tracking technologies. So let's start with electroencephalography, or EEG. EEG measures electrical differences and potentials on the surface of the scalp, a result of changes in electrical activities in the areas of the brain underlying the scalp, and by comparing one electrode to another. The frequency, amplitude, and amount of electrical activity is then measured by the half second and matched to various elements influencing that consumer experience. The consumer experience could be any behavioral phenomenon we want to investigate, which could be their experience of watching a TV commercial, taking a sip of wine, or walking down an aisle in a grocery store. Our task is then to consider this activity across the electrodes and use statistical tools to construct a number of corresponding metrics that pertain to indicators of memorability, emotion, and other behaviors that correspond with purchase intent, or what we call their appetite for consumption. This allows us to build an understanding of how memorable, emotionally engaging, and desirable that particular consumer experience was, and identify opportunities for optimization. Next up is GSR. Our GSR sensor units are wearable, wireless biosensors that measure emotional arousal via skin conductance, a form of electrodermal activity that increases during states such as excitement, attention, or anxiety, and lowers during states such as boredom or relaxation. These measures allow us to make inferences about the way in which a respondent is responding emotionally to a particular experience. By identifying specific emotional response triggers, we can optimize the stimulus for the most effective emotional influence. We also use facial coding. Now, facial expressions are instant, culturally universal, and are an excellent indicator of the kinds of emotions an individual has during a consumer experience. In other words, the respondent's affective state. Facial coding differs from other emotional measures in that it provides us with an indication of the kinds of emotion experienced, rather than just the intensity or whether an emotion is positive or negative. Facial coding is used to identify facial expressions and their corresponding emotions by isolating muscles that produce the facial expressions themselves. Our software automatically analyzes the 6 basic facial expressions of happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust, as well as neutral and contempt. It also calculates gaze direction, head orientation, and specific person characteristics. With advanced analysis and reporting, we can conduct an in-depth interpretation of these underlying and often unconscious cognitive states, and we can quickly gain insight into the emotional effects of different experiences. This allows us to make predictions about how a specific consumer experience, for example being exposed to any form of advertisement, may affect an individual's emotional response and memory, and therefore the likelihood of future consumption behaviors. Eye tracking technologies allow us to draw conclusions about visual attention and behavior by recording eye gaze and pupil data. Wearable mobile eye tracking glasses are used to track gaze direction and fixation within a 3D environment, such as an in-store experience, for the assessment of attention and awareness within a 3-dimensional space. We are also able to identify specific visual influences and gaze direction using our lab experiments with a remote eye tracker. This can be attached to a computer screen, television, or store shelf. Gaze mapping allows the aggregation of multiple participant gaze and behavioral data onto target areas. It combines both advanced visualizations such as gaze plots, scans, B-swarms, and attention maps, which are either focus or heat maps, with key eye tracking metrics across specific areas of interest. We also have the ability to integrate eye tracking data with other behavioral data, such as mouse clicks, keystrokes, for a more holistic view of participant behavior. For example, the consumer's online user experience when trying to complete a particular task on a website. Pupil dilation metrics together with emotional metrics also give us an indication of memorability in response to the visual stimulus under review. At NeuralSense, we use all of these technologies to provide a holistic view of the consumer experience and identify opportunities to optimize this consumer experience to evoke emotional engagement and enhance memorability for our clients' brands, products, and services.